how I got to this point with the Supra. Um, you know, it's been a crazy season, and there's been a lot of changes with the car. And you know, if you've been following the Instagram, maybe you've seen the changes, maybe you haven't. There's been a lot of changes in this last month, and I just kind of want to do this to explain what's got me to this point. So let's get into it. I got the Supra back in 21. It was stock, had 1,500 miles on it out in Hawaii, and enjoyed the car out there for the longest time. And it was good, it was fun. JB4 while I was out there, and then I came here and did BM3 because I had a track here, and just did bolt-ons, intake, downpipe, exhaust, charge pipe. I did 1088 in the quarter mile at 126 miles mile an hour, and I was just stock turbo off the shelf, BM3, E50 tune, no custom ROM. After that, got into the winter, did the piston revision through Toyota through warranty. Don't really remember the mileage. I think it was like 26,000. Don't quote me on that. After they did that, I also put on the CTS turbo kit, so the pistons and turbo kit can break in at the same time. It was roughly about 1,000 miles. Did the oil change, and got a base tune for that CTS turbo kit. If you don't know it, it runs the same stock wastegate the stock turbo does, and I didn't have to do any adjustments to it. It was fine where it was at. But I wasn't really doing pulls. Went and I contacted Shep Transmission. If you don't know him, really cool guy. He's been in the business for about 20 years. He does GTRs, Evos, Lambos, and R8 transmissions. And yeah, if you don't know, you should check him out because he's starting to get into the Supra BMW platform, and I've had zero issues with his transmission, and it's stage 2 right now, stock converter. Talk about Shep transmissions, no issues there. For fueling, after the Shep transmission, I got a Spool FX 350 high pressure fuel pump, and I did a Precision Raceworks stage 1 low pressure fuel pump. I was in between Precision Raceworks and PFS. PFS wasn't in at the time, and I needed the Precision Raceworks for a race that was coming up. Best I could do with the high pressure fuel pump was a 7.0 6130, and not the greatest thing compared to how I am now. I don't even know what that compares to how other guys are doing. I think it's a little slow because I think I've seen cars go 9s, and pretty sure for 9s you need to be at least 5 seconds. 6130. That was stock direct injectors. Not like I upgraded them to M3s or anything like M3 injectors. Just stock E50 injectors for that. Roll racing record with that setup was 131 miles an hour, and we'll talk about what it did now as a comparison. And that was on stock intake manifold. Yeah, that first street car takeover was kind of like the first time launching the car and whatnot, and getting through it. And that was stock axles at the time, and the track was very sticky. Got through the first 2 qualifiers Friday night, I'd say just fine. I was doing 11.0s, which wasn't really where I wanted to be, but I was learning the car again. And kind of heat soaking at the end of the quarter mile with the stock manifold. Did roll racing, and it came second place in the daily driver class, losing to a 1,000 wheel horsepower Blazer. Instagram. It's a whole other separate thing. It's whatever. Got to Q3 and I broke the stock axles on the 2 to 3 shift. So no surprise there. It was whatever. Put the car home. I put it on a trailer. I drove it there, so I had to find a trailer and take it home. Got new Titan axles in. I will say this: if you're doing axles, replace them beforehand. They're a lot easier to take out when they're one piece instead of 2 pieces. Yeah, just do that. It'll be a lot easier on yourself instead of trying to fiddle with it and trying to get a little hub out versus just yanking the whole axle out. And then after the axles, I put in the CSF Race X manifold. I was planning on doing Rocky Mountain Race Week, and that was June, and I was looking at temperatures, and it was supposed to be 100 degrees, and the car was struggling with heat soaking when it was 80 plus. So I wasn't going to try to do streetcar Rocky Mountain Race Week with the manifold that I already knew wasn't going to cut up to it. So I put in the Race X manifold, and it performed flawlessly. I think on 100 degrees temperatures racing, my IATs were 120, and that's just single pass through the manifold, stock heat exchangers. So I was saying the heat exchanger stock, the other coolers were stock. It was just the upgraded manifold with single pass through. I'm gonna say that helps a little bit. When guys run icebox setups and whatnot, that's the way they run it, a single pass through, not a dual pass. In my mind, having the coolant go through one time instead of go through and then loop back through, it's going through and getting hot and then going back through and getting even more hot. So I think doing the single pass was the way to do it, and that's how I set mine up. You can set yours up, I guess, however you want, but all the drag guys do single pass through with probably an ice box. I'm not at the level for an ice box yet, but I figure that's the best way to do it. Talk about Rocky Mountain Race Week. Sunday was a little rough. Basically, I installed that manifold Friday night and Saturday, and I did a cache days that same night basically, and just to get testing on the car to see if everything worked before I went and drove the car 1,000 miles. Car worked. I didn't really win the cache days. I got second in the cache days I set up. That's whatever, no big deal. It was really just testing for me. And if you're interested in that, just here in the Midwest where I am, I set that up every now and then. But yeah, back to Rocky Mountain Race Week. I did 11:27 the first day, and that really hurt my average for the rest of the week. Speaking to the tuner when Monday started, and they were back in office, and started getting new revisions for the manifold, and the time started dropping down pretty quick. I was starting to do consecutive 10-second passes when I wasn't aiming for an 11.0 pass, because that's the class I signed up for, was the 11.0 class, just so I wouldn't have to run the car as hard as it would need to every single time. And ended up doing 10:59 at Mocan, which was the 5th day, whatever. And that's where my PB was for a while. 10:59 at 134 miles an hour. And that was like 80 degrees plus, and I don't remember what the DA was, but it was pretty high. And that was with the Spool FX 350, the stock B58 direct injectors, and low pressure fuel pump, and the manifold. And it was good. I wanted more, and as me wanting more, that's what I went and did. I realized that port injection was the way to go, and that's what I should have done from the beginning, was port injection, and would have saved myself money by doing that, because sold a high pressure fuel pump for less than what I bought it for. So but yeah, I switched to port injection. I put in some Injector Dynamics 1300s I got them from a buddy out in Hawaii, Britt. He's CEO of Q Customs. Some of you guys may know that, some of you might not. I think it's funny, whatever. He's a great guy, and I'm glad I got the injectors from him, because it saved me a lot of money. Thanks, Britt. I left the stage 1 low pressure fuel pump in. Tuner said that it was good for where I thought I wanted to be at for the power with that at the time. So I just left that be. Added the reflex for port injection, flex fuel, whatnot, and I switched to MHD Plus. So I had to resend the ECU out to Femto, and I was gonna have to send it to Femto either way, since I was BM3 non custom ROM. I was gonna have to send it out for custom ROM version 1, but I was kind of waiting on these BM3 announce custom ROM version 2 is going to come out, and they mentioned Rev 2 at the time, which I think was end of Q2 or whatever. They said it was going to come out Q2, and it came out Q2, but it was only for select S58. So yeah, I was really annoyed. I know other guys are annoyed. They still haven't came out, and it's October now. Yeah, it's just the select S58 cars. So kind of annoying. Whatever, I wasn't going to stick with BM3. Tuner likes MHD Plus, so that's what I went with. I switched to MHD Plus, and it's been good, the learning curve, but I'm figuring it out. Let's see. Oh yeah, when I added the reflex, I bought it used with the Visconti. Was it Camport version 2 or whatever, and I had a little issue with the fuel pressure sensor. It just wouldn't work. It was stuck at pinging 110.5 psi no matter what I did. So I contacted Reflex, and they remoted it into the car, and yep, it's broken. So got that replaced, and yeah, I finally got to start tuning, and let's see, I got into the high fives with this setup of just the stage 1 low pressure fuel pump and 1300 injectors, which is still in the car. I haven't changed those. I'm not maxing those out any chance. And the 1/4 mile hit I did, which was on the street, was 1073 at this setup. So not like a personal best by any means overall. It was a personal best for the street, because I had a 1076, I think, at the top with the Spool FX 350. Didn't really have any events after Rocky Mountain Race Week. So really next event, forget what I was doing in between the time. I think I was just kind of saving money to switch, and the ECU come back from Femto. But went to Ice Cream Cruise with the setup of the stage 1 low pressure fuel pump, reflex, MHD, and this was the first time me launching the car on the track and racing people. First pass, wasn't focused on racing. I launched, and I was looking over. I was shoot, I wasn't data logging, so I'm over here trying to data log, and I should have been shifting. And yeah, so I was I was on the rev limiter for every shift, just because I just wasn't focused on shifting. That was 8.0 pass, just horrible. Number 2, The second pass, the car launched soft and had a code come up for fuel. I really don't remember what the code is at the time, but it was something for fuel. I think it was like lean conditioned or something. We'll touch later on that because there's more issues with fuel pressure. Third run, transmission tune XHP. I'm supposed to have it locked out for first gear, not to go in first gear. And I had this issue during Rocky Mountain Race Week, and I just reflashed the tune, and it worked, I guess. But that also happened on the day when it was like 110 degrees or whatever. I don't know, it was kind of hot lapping the car. So third pass, ice cream cruise. Transmission was hot, car was hot, and launch was good. Initial launch was good, but it shifted down to first and then back up to second, and then continued on, and the rest of the run was fine. Ended up being like a 7.0 pass, and I really don't have like the breakout for the 60 foot and all that, but it wasn't all that great. And I did one roll race against a Supra, and he was full bolt on, max effort stock turbo with port injection, and a manifold. I don't remember what manifold he's running, but not the same one I'm running. It was like a DO88 or something. Sorry for. After that event, it kind of led me to think like, okay, like, you know, I was only mixing to E60 at the time, and I was maxing out the fuel pump, low pressure fuel pump. So I was like, okay, well, I don't really want this to be an issue. Like, I want to be able to run full 85 if I can, and in my head, guarantee me a 9-second pass even if I have a bad 60 foot. Yeah. So this led me 2 weeks before Streetcar Takeover 2.0. I decided let's upgrade the low pressure fuel pump, and I went with Precision Raceworks Stage 2, which it's a Walbro 425, forget the part number, but it's the one that has a relief valve that opens at 110 psi. And the way Precision Raceworks is supposed to have it set up, you're supposed to add it to your OEM low pressure fuel pump. But when I switched from the OEM to stage 1, I had to take the Venturi out of the OEM and put it in the stage 1. So I had to cut that fuel line that was on there and to get the Venturi. Well, in doing this, I say ruined the OEM pump because we can't, you know, I don't have any fuel lines like that around my area where I can just buy one and then hook it up, and I wouldn't really feel safe or as confident in the car, I guess, with if I tried to modify the bucket like that myself. So I contacted Precision Raceworks, and they said you can add the stage 2 pump, the Walbro 425, to the stage 1. It just means that you'll have a really high flowing stage 2 pump. So I was like, oh, okay, cool, more fuel pressure. Like, it can't really be that bad. Well, it kind of was that bad, because in my head I made this stage 2.25 pump, and at first I was like, oh yeah, this would be great, I have all the fuel pressure in the world now. And you know, tuning was going good for a while, and then, you know, you start finding the limit of your setup, and you know, when I got this done, all said and done, it was literally Thursday night, I had to overnight the Precision Raceworks aluminum top hat because I cracked my plastic one, trying to modify it for the giant wire pass through to go in. I don't have a stepped drill bit, so I was just trying to go through like all the drill bits I had and just try to go up as slowly as I can. And I think I went from 3/8 to half, and it just cracked. So, yep, I had a little panic and contacted Precision Raceworks, and they sent me their aluminum top hat and sent me a plug-and-play wire for the pump and the top hat, which I'm thankful for that. It made my life a little bit easier when installing it and whatnot. Because basically when I was waiting for that, I just ran all the wires for the reflex. I ran the wires to get the pump wired in back to the battery. And so when that came in, I just had to plug it in and plug everything else in and just start the car. And it all worked. So yeah, so got to the tuning part and everything was going good, except when I started to do like quarter-mile testing on the street. Now I have like a local track since Heartland closed down, and a little 8th mile has been closed for a good while now. So I just got to go to Mexico and do street hits. And map 3, it just the car would not accept it. It would backfire. And just go into these safety modes, and for the life of me, I couldn't find out why. Like I just couldn't understand why. Like I just saw fuel pressure going to 110.5, and going back to when the fuel pressure issue was broken, it was pegged to 110.5. So I just thought, man, I thought the fuel pressure sensor was just busted again. And I started like trying to reflash tunes and whatnot, and try to go through and reflash the reflex, and I messed that up. And messed it up to where it was just reading 0. Like it just wasn't reading anything. So I was like, well, my night was over, and I thought my weekend was going to be over, and I almost didn't go to Streetcar Takeover and import Face Off because I thought the reflex was busted. And I was like, there's no way I'm getting this to work by tomorrow, Friday and Saturday. But I went home and just packed up the car, and I was reaching out to everybody. I was reaching out to the tuners. I was reaching out to Visconti. I was reaching out to the guy that helped me the last time for reflex. I made Facebook posts, and thankfully the owner, I forget his name, I think it's John, he commented on my post and said to reach out to him, and that's what I did. And as I was getting the car detailed at my detailing sponsor in Kansas City, Detail Doctors, KC, did a little maintenance wash, and he told me, just check to see if it's getting power. And then, I said, yeah, it's getting power. And then he remoted into it, and he's like, oh, it just wasn't flashed right. Because me freaking out the night before, trying to just do anything, and I didn't remember the proper sequence for loading the file into the reflex. So he figured that out, and car was, I was happy. I was, yes, the car's working now. It was doing pulls. It was pulling good and strong in map 3. And this was headed from Detail Doctors over to the track, which probably it was like a 40-ish minute drive. And, I was getting on the highway, and I was doing some pulls and just doing some data logs, just checking things everything was all right. And, doing, it was like 3rd, 4th pull, and liquid just starts coming up on the windshield. The hood's vented, so it can just come through the hood. And I was like, man, that's weird. I was like, well, maybe it's just from the water. And then I do another pull, and more comes out, and I'm like, this is not good. So I go and stick my hand out and wipe it along the windshield, and then I taste it, and I was like, oh, that's coolant. That's an issue. So I just found the nearest exit and pulled into the Quick Trip under the shade and just open the hood and coolant's everywhere. And I'm like, well, this is an issue. And of course I have an issue after fixing one issue. And it's kind of how my weekend was just having issues all weekend. I cleaned that up as much as I could while the car was cooling down, and then opened it up, and it was just, the reservoir was just full. It was, before I left, it was at the max level, slightly below, and now it was just near the top. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. So, message the tuner like, hey, I don't know what to do. Should I just bleed it again? He's like, yeah, just, get to the track and just bleed it two to five times. So, I get to the track and I bleed it like 3 times and it goes down. And it was in between like the low and the max. So I just topped it off with some distilled water that I had with me, just in case of emergencies. Kind of like this situation. So just put it back up to just below the max, and prep the car for first round of qualifying. First round of qualifying, get up, do the burnout, everything was good. Get up stage, build boost, everything was fine. Launch the car, and it does get to the 60 feet, and it just starts misfiring and whatnot. So I'm like, okay, this isn't good. So I pull over, stop in case motor blew or whatever. And before I turn the motor off, I just let it just idle for a quick second, and I was like, okay, I don't hear any knocking, it's just misfiring. So I turn it off, and then I get out, and the other guy on the track, he was long gone, so I wasn't worried about him. But get out, look under the car, no fluid under there. Pop the hood, no fluid. I don't smell anything, coolant, oil, etc., hot metal. So okay, whatever. Shut the hood, get in the car, read the codes, and it says misfire. So, okay, clear the codes. Started the car, and didn't hear any knocking, didn't hear any weird noises at the time, so I just drove it down the track. Wasn't getting in the boost or anything until I was like at the end and kind of the shutdown area, but I was just going 60 miles an hour. So just rolled into a little bit, and I was like just listening, and I was like, okay. And I have an enclosed air box, so it's not like I can hear turbo spool. I was hearing the spool because I had a boost leak, and it kind of misfire and chug a little bit. I was like, okay, I got a significant boost leak. So going back down the return road, just try to listen again. Like, yep, boost leak. Get to where I'm pitted at, and just open the hood. I have some light. There's nighttime. It's like past 7, 8 p.m. I had some light, and I was looking just at like the charge pipe, make sure it's tight. The clamps looked all tight, whatnot. So okay, well, grab a flashlight and started looking. Temperature sensor was good. Pulled the engine cover off, and the map sensor was just came unscrewed. It was crazy, I guess just rattled loose or whatever, popped out. So got some blue Loctite and Loctited and the screw, and then screwed back in, let it set for 5-10 minutes or so, and then I went for a little drive, and nothing, it didn't pop back out. So cool. Waited for Q2. Q2 never came because of one of the small tire guys who's making a lot of horsepower, 1,015, 2,000, whatever he's making. He caught fire and oiled down the track and the shutdown. So they had to clean, get him off the track, then clean that all up. And that took a good while, maybe an hour or so. And it's nighttime in Kansas in October, and it's getting a little cool. It was like 60s or so at this point. You can kind of see the humidity a little bit. And they cleaned them up, and then they ran the streetcar class, and they got a few. Actually, no, they didn't even finish Q1 of everything. So I think it was Women in Wheels. They were doing Women in Wheels, and this girl was in a GTR. I guess this was her second time in this GTR. And this is like a 9-8 second GTR. It was quick. And she got out to the 8th mile, and it just veered off right, and she kept it off. She was in the left lane. She kept it off the right side wall, and then corrected left, and the car spun around. And where I was pitted at basically a 13:20 finish line. I was right there, and she almost kept it off the wall when she came back around. It tapped the rear, and then the front kind of came around, and I think it broke like the steering rod or steering leak or something in the front suspension, because when they tried to drive it off, it wouldn't drive. Or maybe it was an axle, but it wouldn't drive either way, so they had to tow that off. And it was like sitting crooked in the track, so it's not like the tow truck could just come and put it on the flatbed real quick. They move it around and move the truck, move it around, and move the truck. And so that took a little while. And as they were doing that, they were basically done pulling the truck off. And the announcer comes on and says, I don't know how to put this, but kind of drug it out, but basically said, yeah, we're not going to race anymore. If you look up at the starting line, you see that smoke. Well, that's not smoke, that's humidity and dew. And so the starting line was all had water on it and whatnot. So they closed the track down for the night. And that was it. I didn't have anything else for Friday. Went there and parked the car overnight and went to the hotel. All right, so now we're on to Saturday after coming back from the hotel, which was 30 minutes away from the track. And Saturday morning, parents came in to come watch me race or whatnot, and get to the car, try to start the car, and it's on full 85 now, and it was 40 degrees overnight, so it was cold. This was the first time the car's been outside in the cold of the 85, and it was just normal. Any 85 car does, it cranks, and it fired a little bit, but it died. And I didn't know this, but Supras, BMWs nowadays, when you crank them and they don't start, they have a code that pops up saying the engine doesn't start. So when that happens, it won't let you start the car again. You'll press the button, it'll crank one time and then just stop. And I did this for a good 5 minutes or so. And I was, I don't know what's wrong. Like, I put jumper cables on it or whatnot, and it would crank like a couple times and then it wouldn't do it. So I go through and I was like, well, I don't know, I'll just check codes. Oh, got a code for, car didn't start. So I clear the code and, go to refire the car, and, it cranks with ethanol, and then boom, fires up. I'm like, go figure, here we are. So yeah, the car finally starts, and take it up for roll racing, do the driver's meeting, and then take it up for roll racing qualifying round 1. Put it in map 2. I have 3 maps. Map 1's more so for like pump gas, and then map 2, map 3 is for ethanol, and different percentages or whatnot for when full boost come on. But I put it in map 2, just get a feeler run out, see where the car would trap at, and make sure everything was working. Just because Q1 with the map sensor came out last night, Friday night. Car did great, trapped 141 miles an hour. That's 10 miles an hour up from the last street car takeover roll race, and I wasn't really brake boosting all that much for the start. So, it's possible that it could have gone faster with map 2. Go for the next qualifying rounds and map 3, and the car just would not perform.
the tuner mentioned like the fuel pressure issue, and just having too much fuel pressure now. The Walbro 425, it has a relief valve that opens at 110 psi. I didn't know this until you mentioned that but when I was talking about tuning earlier, when the sensor was bad about the 110 psi, well, it's because the the pump has a relief valve, and I was learning this now while at the track Saturday. So, the car just would not perform in map 3, and get to first round eliminations. The car had a code for whatever the code was. I don't remember, but it put it in a limp mode, and so I got Q1 eliminations number 1, and the car just didn't go. I was very, very frustrated at this point, and I was over the Supra, to be honest. I just couldn't imagine this luck and what was happening. Go to now what was supposed to be Q3, because it was supposed to have 2 rounds of qualifying Friday night, but now Q2. The car didn't perform. Yeah, it was, and I get to eliminations, first round eliminations, and change some things in the tune and whatnot. I was still on map 3, and I was just hoping, well, maybe the car will perform. I switched from the 10.0 to the 9 second class, just hoping that things I would change, the car would run and I could be somewhat competitive and not have to hold the car back if I was in the 10.0 class. And I think the car, I don't remember if it launched good or didn't launch good, but it didn't have a top end at all if it did launch good. So that was my day, weekend, my Friday, Saturday for Street Car Takeover. It was done and over with at that point. I was very frustrated and upset, and really over the Supra just because it didn't perform the way I wanted it to, like how it did last Street Car Takeover. So yeah, it kind of packed up and went to the hotel. The next day was import face off, and I didn't know if they wanted guys in or out of the pits. They wanted guys out of the pits. They didn't mention anything until 7:30, but I took the car home. Didn't take it home. I took it to the hotel, and on the way to the hotel, it was having misfiring issues. I thought maybe I had another boost leak. The T-map sensor came out or whatever. But it was cylinder 2, and I cleared the codes or whatever. I pulled over, cleared the codes, went again. It misfired cylinder 2 again. And so I went to a gas station, just opened the hood, just looked to see if stuff was loose or whatnot. Nothing was loose, so I continued my drive to the hotel. It just, in low boost, I could boost to 10, 15 psi, no problems. Cruising was no problems. It was only if I rolled into, over 15, 20 psi that I had issues with misfiring. At this point, it was pretty late. It was 10 p.m. or so, and I just wanted to get to the hotel and sleep. So I got to the hotel, got back in the car in the morning, learned from the previous day about the starting issue. So I have my iPad there, but it started up, it cranked for a while, but started up first time, no issues, and just kind of drove back to the track. Drove back to the track, reteched in for import face-off. Had to be a different number, different classes or whatnot. It was a lot smoother than the first day, just because they recognized me and I was racing the day prior, so they just did a quick once over. Did anything change? Nothing changed, and let me go. Went for Q1 for import face-off, and it was just quarter mile racing, no roll racing. But before this, I switched the spark plugs. Since it was cylinder 2, I switched the spark plug from cylinder 2 to cylinder 1, and I put the coil pack from 2 to 3 just to see if the misfire followed one way or the other. When I didn't have time to go do a test run before qualifying, when I realized, like, hey, it might be spark or ignition. And I checked all the plugs for everything else for the fuel injectors, and they were all tight. But yeah, during the run, it misfired again. Checked the code; it was cylinder 1. So I was like, okay, it was obviously a spark plug issue since it went from cylinder 2 to cylinder 1, and that's how I swapped the plugs. So I started now looking for, maybe one OEM spark plug, like, anybody on the forums local to me has one spark plug. It's a Sunday, so BMW, Toyota parts aren't open. So, okay, now I gotta find 6 spark plugs. So, started looking up spark plugs, got to NGK, and I looked up the spark plugs for a wrong car, and I don't even know what NGK, what they went to, but it wasn't for the Supra, and I don't know how I got there. But I was calling AutoZone for these spark plugs, and nobody had them, except for one shop on the west side of Kansas City, which was like an hour away. And I was trying to call them, and I was on hold for 10-15 minutes just trying to talk to somebody at the store to see if they even had them in stock. Like, just wasn't a freak, it says online, but they're not really there. And then I did some more searching, and I was like, I need a different one. So then I hung up with them, and it said, hey, this store has them near you. So I called the store. It's 30 minutes away, Independence, Missouri, east side of Kansas City. They said, yep, we got 8. I was like, okay, I need 6. Do you have 6? And they said, yep, we have 6. I said, okay, can you hold those 6? Here's my information. I'm on my way. So I drive there with like race suit on and everything, with the wife and the son in the car, and we get there, go inside, buy them, and I literally ran into the store, ran out to the car, and it was lunchtime at the time. Wife was hungry, I was hungry, and Aston was hungry. Definitely have to take care of the family, so we stopped for food at Mobetta's. It's a Hawaiian spot. If you don't know this, I was at Hawaii for 3 years and really come to like Hawaiian food. So every time we're in Kansas City with the family, we stop at a Hawaiian place because we don't have any good ones near us right now. But there's nobody to drive through, so it was real quick. And after that, I texted Cliff, the organizer of Streetcar Import Face Off, said, hey man, can you hold the class I ran? It was like forced induction sport. I was like, can you hold this class, like maybe like the last class, so I can try to get to elimination rounds? And he said, yeah, we can do this. And at the same time, I also texted some friends there at the pits, guys over at Cruise Tune. They're a shop local to me. I try to work on the car as much as I can, but they're a great shop, and they took the spark plugs out. And so when I got there, I just checked the gap on the new ones. I just put them all in, and hooked the car back up, cleared codes, went up to the stage lanes, and made it just in time for my class. Basically, there was like 2 races left of a class before, and then they started our class. So made it just in time, and I was still in map 3. Didn't think to change to map 2, and the car launched great. Second, third gear pulled great, and I was racing some Honda Civic, and I was out in front of him, and then he just come blowing past me, and I was so frustrated.
Something happened, he let off. Look at that. Oh, 1085 goes by for the win.
Go back to the pits, whatever, looked over things. Yep, too much fuel pressure, and cooled the car down, and messaged the tuner, was like, why not try map 2? So go up, try map 2, and the car finally makes a full pass down the track for the quarter mile. New personal best of 10:03. at 138 miles an hour. So at this point, I was ecstatic that the car made it pass, but I was just I was frustrated. I was like, why is it a 10.0? Why couldn't it be a 9.99? Like, of course, it's my luck. After all this, that the car goes a 10.03. Friends, I was like, why not just try, map 3 and just try it now. I had a new tune revision, whatnot, so I'm like, okay, we'll try map 3 now, and just still same issues. So just whatever, and it didn't work out. The car also tried to launch at 15 pounds of boost. The track didn't take it. The car spun like crazy, and then it took off, but it still kind of cut power after that. And then tried to hot lap the car, go to map 2, and the car just I don't know what happened, but the car didn't like being hot lapped. So I didn't get to progress on any other runs for trying to better the time, and ended up my weekend being a 10.03 at 138. What's next for me in the car? If you were there, Airmotive Fueling Solutions was a sponsor of Streetcar Takeover the first time they were there, and the second time. First time I was there, I asked them, like, hey, you guys got anything for the Supra for fueling? Because, this time I was just the FX350 and the Stage 1 pump. So, like, you guys got anything? And said, no, but, we've been talking about it or whatever. And this time, I was there, and they were there again. I asked them, like, hey, we still don't have anything. I was like, okay. But this time, these guys were out in the staging lanes and at the drag strip, and watching the races go by and watching me race, and I got to talking to them. Like, they saw the car was having problems, so I was talking to them like, hey. I was like, I saw they were taking photos. Like, hey, like, is there a way to get those photos? They said, yeah. And whatnot. They took great photos. I have one on my Instagram. I got more to post, but this Monday I reached out to them like, hey, like, I want to like try to get serious. Like, do you guys want to develop something for the Supra? Tuner says I need a return, like a regulator to return something, but yep, I needed a regulator and a return back to the fuel pump, just to bring down the fuel pressure of the fuel rail and hopefully not open the relief valve on the fuel pump. Or if they want to develop a whole new pump system for the Supra or BMW cars, I think that's something they said they're interested in. So we'll see if we can collaborate on something with them. They're local to me. They're about hour 45, and I'm probably the only new BMW Supra guy that races their car, and that's more than just stock turbos and whatnot. Not saying there's anything wrong with the stock turbo guys racing, but I guess I'm the one that's doing the most progression locally. So yeah, we'll see if that ever takes off with something. They go to SEMA. I'm not going, but they are. So their main focus is that, as that's something the big automotive parts guys and dealers go to. So just give them that time. Sadly, I'm active duty Air Force, and I go to a school for the month of November, and all my local tracks will be closed when I get back at the end of the month. So I wanted to go race. I'd have to travel or just wait for next season. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's kind of where I'm at. What's going to happen. I'd like to thank sponsors brake loose for supplying parts, money, whatnot for the season, Shep transmission for the Awesome Stage 2 transmission, detail doctors for the ceramic coat, and maintenance washes, and then race box for tuning the car. Yeah, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. See you.